Good morning, everyone, and welcome to this morning's FASD learning session. My name's Jean Anderson. I'm the Director of Professional Development and Quality Improvement for CASA, Child, Adolescent, and Family Mental Health. Before I introduce our presenters, there are a few housekeeping tips I'd like to tell you about. You can ask questions during the presentation by using the question and answer module on the right-hand side of your screen. A session facilitator is monitoring the questions and will pose them at suitable times during the presentation. If we aren't able to answer all the questions during the live presentation, we will answer them via email after the session is over. It's important that you include your email address when you ask a question, otherwise we'll have no way of sending you an answer. The presenter's contact information can be found on your handout. Also in your handout are several discussion questions. We encourage you to think about these questions and discuss them with your colleagues as a way to further engage on the topic of the presentation today. In order to receive your certificate of attendance, you must sign in after 8:50 a.m. Evaluations for this session will be emailed to you. Please fill them out and return them. We rely on your feedback to continually improve what we do and how we do it. Today's presentation and handouts will be posted for viewing and downloading on the CMC website, fasd-cmc.alberta.ca. As Alberta continues to evolve the FASD 10-year strategic plan, education and training continues to be a critical aspect of the plan for all stakeholders, such as individuals living with FASD, their families and caregivers, networks, researchers, policy and program staff, and so forth. This is our 5th year of offering sessions. We are now broadcasting via both webcast across Canada and video conferencing throughout the North. As always, these sessions are taped and will be available on the CMC website. Once again, that's fasd-cmc.alberta.ca. We're pleased with the ongoing interest and attendance in this initiative. We appreciate the work of CASA, that's us, and Teachers TV and the Alberta Centre for Child, Family and Community Research in making this initiative a success. Today's session is titled Through a Métis Lens, Culturally Specific FASD Prevention and Intervention. Our presenters this morning are Beatrice Demetrius, Kelsey Bradbury, and Sarah Parker of the Métis Nations of Alberta. The presentation will highlight the importance of relationships and supporting coordinated approach to complex needs with continuous supports and links back to the community. Beatrice Demetrius is the Manager of Genealogy for the Métis Nations of Alberta. Beatrice is very passionate about her Matey culture. I'm sure you'll see that. And ensuring that all Métis individuals understand who they are and what it means to be Métis. Beatrice has been a huge influence in many Métis members, completing their genealogy and connecting individuals to their culture. Kelsey Bradbury is the Métis Children and Families Coordinator for Métis Nations of Alberta. Trained as a rehabilitation worker with a specialization in FASD, Kelsey has been integral to the development and delivery of the MNA's FASD support programs. Kelsey has acquired experience and knowledge working with partners and Métis communities in providing relevant supports to Métis children and families influenced by FASD. Sarah Parker is the Director of Intergovernmental Affairs for the Métis Nation of Alberta. Sarah has a background in social research and policy. She works to support research and programs with the MNA, Government of Alberta, and Government of Canada. Most recently, Sarah has worked to develop public health surveillance initiatives specific to the Métis people in Alberta, particularly in regard to the incidence and prevalence of chronic disease. Please join me in welcoming all three, Beatrice, Kelsey, and Sarah.
Thank you, Jean. Good morning, everyone. My name is Sarah Parker, and I'm the Director of Intergovernmental Affairs with the Métis Nation of Alberta. We are delighted to be here representing the Métis Nation of Alberta and here to share with you an overview of the M&A, Matey Culture, and our approach to FASD supports for Métis individuals in the province of Alberta. I'll begin by providing an overview of the M&A governance system, our structure, and highlight some of our affiliate organizations before I pass it over to my colleagues Kelsey and Beatrice. First, the Métis are one of three distinct Aboriginal groups as recognized in the Constitution under Section 35. The Supreme Court of Canada in Powley decision held that Métis have full status as distinctive rights-bearing people. Alberta has the highest Métis population in Canada, and according to the 2006 census, there are approximately 86,000 self-identifying Métis people in Alberta, 45,000 of which are registered with the Métis Nation of Alberta. The M&A is the representative voice of Métis people in Alberta. There are approximately 45,000 people registered with the M&A. We have a democratically elected president, President Audrey Putra, who has served the Métis Nation of Alberta for the past 17 years, one provincially elected vice president, Mr. Toby Rossett, and 6 regionally elected presidents and vice presidents. Together, these 14 individuals make up our provincial council. All decisions regarding policy and programs and funding pass through provincial council, which is governed by a set of bylaws. The Métis Nation of Alberta is one of 5 governing members as part of our national body under the Métis National Council. The map on the screen provides a geographical overview of the 6 regions in Alberta. Operating within each region are Métis locals. These locals also have an elected president and vice president. These elected individuals bring local issues forward to our provincial or to the regional presidents, who then bring them forward to our provincial council. This structure facilitates the promotion of local and regional interests for our Métis people. This map also provides an overview of the density of Métis registered with the M&A in each region, with the highest populations being in the Greater Edmonton area, and that's the region here, with approximately 19,000 Métis people, and then in the south in Calgary, this region 3, Métis region 3, and there's about 12,000 Métis people registered with the M&A in that region. So the mandate of the M&A is to be the representative voice on behalf of Métis people in Alberta. We provide Métis people with an opportunity to participate in government's policy and decision-making process. Our strategic priority and goals is to pursue the advancement and socioeconomic well-being of Métis children and families in Alberta. There are approximately 45,000 registered Métis Albertans. And we also have a number of affiliate organizations, which we're very proud of. For instance, we have Métis Urban Housing, Apitogasan, which is a financial branch and provides loans to assist Métis entrepreneurs with their small businesses, and Rupert's Land Institute, which is the educational training arm of the M&A. So now with this as background, I'll now turn it over to my colleague, Ms. Beatrice Demetrius, who will provide a cultural overview of the Métis.
Good morning. My name is Beatrice Demetrius. I'm the genealogist at the Métis Nation of Alberta, and I have been there since 2003. I'm here to provide you with a historical fact about the Métis people. The Métis first gained recognition following the Battle of Seven Oaks in 1816. However, the Métis knew that they were a distinct group prior to this battle. Some historical leaders, such as Paul Kane, described the Métis, the half-breeds, a race who, keeping themselves distinct from both Indians and whites, form a tribe of themselves, and adopted some of the customs and manners of the French voyageurs. In times of scarcity, they help all around them. In sickness, they furnish medicines and even try to act as mediators and entrepreneurs between hostile bands of Indians. Here we have other quotes of Cuthbert Grant, Colin Robertson, and Pierre Falcon on the board. The Battle of Seven Oaks marks the birth of the Métis Nation. On June the 19th, 1816, there was a key historical event that happened at Seven Oaks. Aside from the Battle of Batoche in 1885, this was the first battle about Métis recognition. The battle occurred in 1816 and was in response to the Hudson's Bay Company's proclamation prohibiting the sale of pemmican. This was significant for the Métis, as the sale of pemmican was was how the Métis sustained their livelihood on the plains. Cuthbert Grant and his soldiers started toward Fort Douglas. They were met by Governor Semple a half-mile outside of the fort at Seven Oaks. A battle ensued. All but one of Semple's 20 soldiers were killed. And Pierre Falcon, our Métis poet, wrote a poem about the Battle of Seven Oaks, and this is the poem. And actually it is a song now. The battle was described by the Métis poet Pierre Falcon in his victory song, The Battle of Seven Oaks. This was a political victory and the first declaration of the Bois Brûlé, the first term to identify the Métis people. On our next screen, who are the Métis, prominent Métis leaders? At the top right, you will see Cuthbert Grant, born at the Northwest Company Trading Post to a Scottish father and a Métis mother. In 1824, Grant led 80 to 100 families to settle and farm at White Horse Plains, which was then called Granttown. In 1828, he was appointed Warden of the Plains by the Hudson's Bay Company, Governor George Simpson. For at least 25 years, his followers served as providers and protectors of the Red River Colony. On the right, Louis Riel was born in 1844 in Manitoba. He led the Métis in the resistance of 1869, 1870, and again in Batoche, Saskatchewan in 1885. Riel is revered as a Métis hero. In fact, the MNA honors Louis Riel annually at our Louis Riel commemorative walk held at St. Margaret's Church at Hastings Lake. Bottom left is Jim Brady, who is one of the 5 founding members of Métis settlements, where meetings began in 1928. By 1932, they formed the first Alberta Métis Association. And to the right, our present president, Audrey Patra, who is the first woman to be president of the Métis Nation. She has served the Métis people for the past 17 years and has made significant social and economic advances for the Métis Nation. She was responsible for and has been the recipient of numerous prestigious awards, including National Aboriginal Awards in 2011 for political service. President Patra also served as interim president of the Métis National Council. She has advanced the rights of Métis within the province of Alberta and nationally as a whole.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Kelsey Bradbury, and I'm the Children's Services Manager for the Métis Nation. Earlier, Jean had introduced me as the coordinator, and it's just recently that I got the manager position, so that's changed as of last week, so very exciting. So today I'm going to talk to you a little bit about what the Métis Nation is doing, what departments we have within the Métis Nation of Alberta. Thanks for Beatrice for providing the background on the Métis and trying to give you guys a little information on where we come from and who we are and why we are different from the other Aboriginal groups. So the MNA's Health and Wellness Department primary concern is ensuring that families and children have equal access to culturally respectful education, health, and social opportunities. We work with the government partners to provide support services to children and families through our FASD and Métis Resource Program, and we have partnered with 3 child and family services authorities by providing culturally respectful FASD supports and services to social workers, the Métis child, family, and support networks. We assist with providing cultural work plans, and we also provide Matey cultural training to professional networks to assist with ensuring services are culturally respectful. The Métis Nation has the Cultural Connections for Aboriginal Youth, known as CCAY, which provides accessible, community-based, culturally focused projects for Aboriginal youth ages 10 to 24. The Public Health Surveillance is also a program, and it's based and administered data link between health records stored by Alberta Health and the Métis Nation's registry. The result of this project will be landmark health status report identifying the prevalence and incidences of chronic disease in Métis population of Alberta based on objectively verifiable population data. So we're really excited. It's the first of its kind. Sarah has been very instrumental in getting that going. And I believe the first report is coming out later in March. So we're really excited about that. So the Provincial and Edmonton Fetal Alcohol Network. So those are the 2 programs that we have within the Métis Nation of Alberta. The Métis Child and Family Wellness Coordinator works collaboratively with Children's Services Region 6 and the M&A Region 4. So it's important to note that our regions and the CFSA regions overlap, and some of our regions include, so CFSA Region 6 includes all of Region 4. As you saw on the earlier slide, you can kind of map out where they're located. So we cover a vast area. So we provide culturally respectful FASD supports and services to the CFSA and the Métis Child and Family and their support network. We identified the 4 priority service areas exercised under this program that support the child and their family. So then the first one we have is the FASD support, and that we develop and administer Métis-specific FASD presentations to staff. So those are geared towards with culturally minded language we use to ensure that we're not being disrespectful to the family. So that's really important that we talk about FASD more so on not a lighter version of what FASD is, but I don't know the term, sensitive, being more sensitive to their needs. We also refer Métis children in care suspected of FASD to the appropriate diagnostic clinic. So what we have seen with some of the files that we have is that they're suspected of FASD, but they don't know how to go about getting diagnostics. And we all know that without diagnostics, you can't really access some of the programs. So that's really important that we go through the steps with them. And even when they receive the diagnostic, we help them understand what it means. So what it means to have FASD, what exactly is that. The second piece is the Matey culture. So we provide cultural supports and provide the CFSA staff, foster parents, and others as requested. We assist in the preparation of cultural work plans for the child. So the Matey culture piece is really important, especially when dealing with a family that has FASD or who is involved with children's services. To ensure that the worker knows the cultural background on the family and really get to know who they are before they make assumptions. So that's kind of where we come into place, and we help the worker kind of bridge those gaps, and hopefully the family receives more of a positive outcome. We also provide options for the CFSA to engage children in care to participate in M&A events and other cultural activities throughout the year. So one thing that we noticed at the provincial office is that we didn't have lots of cultural events. So when we had parents come to us and ask what we are doing, even in the community, we really didn't have anything to offer. So we developed our cultural committee, and we have been preparing presentations and fact sheets to help CFSA staff and other people that are involved with our Métis members. So that's pretty exciting, and as well as the cultural events. So the Métis Week, which happens in November, and that's, I believe, is that across the provinces, the M&A provinces? Yeah, so that's across the provinces. Matey Identification. We assist the CFSA in identification and registration of self-identified Métis children in care, and also work to connect the child to possible kinship providers. So this is really important to us. When a child comes into care and they identify as Métis, we really want to connect them back to their family, or provide that sense of belonging. So with our database, our registry database, as Sarah had mentioned, there's 45,000 members. So we're trying to make the links between to help some possible kinship matches there. And number 4 is the communication. So we work to enhance communication between the CFSA and Métis communities and act as a bridge between the child and family community. So our successes. One priority for the Métis Nation is FASD. The Métis Nation has recognized that FASD education and services need to be brought to our Métis communities to ensure individuals are provided with appropriate supports. It is important to note that FASD is not an Aboriginal issue, and that FASD can occur to all races and ethnicities. The M&A has recognized that our members require a culturally respectful approach when dealing with these sensitive situations, and is dedicated to provide a Métis-specific approach instead of the pan-Aboriginal approach that we see in some agencies that deal with our Métis members. Our approach is simple. We first build a relationship with the individual, client or family. This relationship is the key foundation to providing supports and obtaining trust. This step is very important in obtaining, through our process, we have learned that it's not just about the individual as a whole, but the community that the individual finds support. Without the trust of the individual, we would not have the trust and support of the community. And it's important to note that everyone defines community different. So what I consider community is probably different than most of you that describe what your community is. And that it's not just the geographical area, so that's really important. And as a worker, obtaining the acceptance of the community is a must to develop the foundation. We provide the individual and the community with the knowledge of FASD so they understand what it means to offer continuing support. We are dedicated to taking the time to get to know the individual and the individual's community and work within the client's network to build the capacity for them to succeed. By connecting clients to cultural events and assisting with the development of solid case plans, we are able to identify opportunities in their community and remove some of the barriers often facing with those that we engage. Second, we change the language in which we speak. We work to create a mutually respectful and trusting relationship with the client so neither of us are afraid to ask the tough questions. We have found that by building a culturally respectful foundation, our clients are more acceptable to discuss individual and family issues by prioritizing time with the client opposed to just simply parachuting in, giving them some supports and then backing off. So we really we have the time to dedicate to them to provide those supports and offering continual supports. So that's really important. And this is important when, like, changing the language is important when we are dealing with children in care. For an instance, recently we had a child that was in care. He's 10 years, found a kinship family for him and placed him in there. He was suspected of FASD, so we connected him up with some diagnostic services and provided the family with supports in their areas. That also included travel because they lived outside of the city, so they needed some travel to come in. So we connected them with some different avenues that they could access, and also connecting with the social worker or other supports that they're involved with. So really knowing who they are dealing with, and involving the child or youth as well. So really getting to know who they are, what they want, and as well as what the family requires, I guess. One thing I noticed was just changing the way that I spoke to the family or the other support networks. So even though Children's Services staff says one thing, I say it a different way, and we get a totally different result. So more positive approach, they understand, they're kind of more calm. So really looking at the way that we speak and communicate with them. So that's really important. One of the key challenges that we have has been an accurate account of Métis individuals diagnosed or suspected with FASD. So we are working to address this challenge through our partnership with Alberta Health with Alberta Health. A challenge is that without an accurate account of the incidence and prevalence of FASD in the Métis community, funds may not adequately address the reality. So with our database, we are hoping to somehow make the connection with Alberta Health and see if we can build on that and maybe get some Métis specific FASD numbers. And we all know how hard that is to get the accurate numbers. So for the 2013-2014, our approach has kind of changed with everything that we've learned over the past couple of years with our provincial FASD program. We've changed our approach. So the proposed plan is a prevention intervention plan for Métis families and children with the primary focus for individuals 0 to 18. The intent of the plan will seek to increase awareness and access for Métis families to appropriate health service programs and supports to address their needs. The program will be delivered through 3 primary components: service support assessments, service coordination and participant-based activities focusing on group, education, information sessions, and partnership and integrated activities. So the Métis Nation we haven't really offered specific programs. We kind of been an added support to the other people supporting our members. So this is kind of changing the way that we're doing business as well. So now we're going to be offering the supports and hopefully branch out to provide everyone else how we do things, I guess you could say. So that's really, really big because we've never offered that before. So there's 3 issues or 3 items that we're going to address with this new, with our provincial FASD, and that's healthy birth weights, fetal alcohol spectrum disorder, proper nutrition and meal preparation, complications related to pregnancy, and complications related to pregnancy. So we really wanted to take a more of a hands-on approach, and this is how we're going to do it. So we're really excited, and we are the Métis Nation's FASD program has been running for a while, but it kept changing, it kept evolving. So we noticed the gaps and had to change it, some barriers. So this is really exciting, and we're happy to provide the supports to our members of our nation. So that is it for our presentation, and if anyone has any questions, please feel free.
Kelsey, I wonder if you could, you talked a lot about including the Matey culture as a component of the work that you do with families affected by FASD. Could you say a little bit more about what that looks like? Could you give us an example of what a cultural approach would be, sure, how that would be different?
Sure. So we kind of looked at this and thought about what the Métis Nation's approach would be and how would it be different. So one of the things is our toolkits. We're developing Métis specific toolkits to help individuals with with FASD and their families. So those toolkits are going to highlight some different areas more specific to Métis communities. So all of our Métis communities are scattered. We have, and each community has different needs. So we're trying to gear those toolkits to, they're designed to provide the information directly for those needs. The cultural piece is just really understanding who they are. So we've come across, I guess, people not knowing what is Métis, and one of the things is, well, if I'm not, I know I'm not Inuit, and I know I'm not First Nation, so I must be Métis, and that's not really the case. That's not necessarily the case. So providing workers and support networks with that information will change the way that we're hoping will change the way that they see the Métis community. So I hope, does that kind of answer? Like, our toolkits are our big thing, and we haven't released them yet. We're hoping by the end of March, I believe. And the kinship piece is really important too. So our approach is you learn your culture from your family. So if we can make that connection with the child or whoever, then we're better off than not.
Just a comment, it sounds like by introducing culture, it's a way of connecting with the child and the family.
Yes.
And helping them feel connected to you.
Yes.
Is that right? And
Yes.
then they're more receptive
Yes.
to the information and the support?
Yes.
Is that
that's
a fair
exactly.
summary?
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
We have a question from Arlene, and she is asking, if I want to be culturally sensitive, what are the most relevant things I need to know if I am speaking with families? So the most important things you need to know in order to be culturally sensitive.
Good question.
I think when dealing with a family, it's important just to take the time to get to understand what their conceptualization of their culture is. Because I think from time to time, we may see that even though we're all Métis, the practices may differ depending on where you are geographically. Even though you may be, what one might do in their family may be different from what Kelsey would do in their family.
Correct.
And so I think it's just taking the time to ask what it means to them to be Métis, asking them what they're aware of, if there's any cultural activities that that they're aware of, and then providing them with options to connect to those activities, and also connecting with other potential family members.
Yeah.
I'm just curious. Oh,
That they're not like, I don't, you know what I mean? Beatrice, do you want to add anything to that? Would you like to add anything about the cultural piece?
You don't have to.
You don't have to.
Well, since when I first started, I would have workshops. A lot of people would come, and they didn't know if they were Métis. So we'd have workshops and search for their families, and then they wanted to know, okay, what do the Métis do? We invite them to our GRC Centre. We have a little research centre at the Métis Nation of Alberta with a lot of cultural information, books, almost 2,500 photographs, historical photographs of what our ancestors looked like and how they dressed and how they lived. And that seems to be quite important to a lot of these people that are finding out for the first time that they are Métis.
Yeah, that's perfect. Thank you. Thanks, Beatrice.
it sounds like getting to know each individual family is really important because culture is kind of specific to each family. And I'm curious if you can, I don't want to put you on the spot, but if any stories or experiences you've had or conversations you've had come to mind that you can kind of give me as an example, as someone who hasn't. I moved to Alberta recently, so I don't have a lot of experience talking to families who have Métis heritage or are part of Métis culture. So I'm wondering if you can tell me about some of the experiences you've had, what the specific cultural experiences are and how that might change, maybe what you would say, or an example of how you would change your language and what kind of a positive experience you've had because of how you've changed your language.
So I think just to answer the first part of your question is, I think identity is something that's inherent to that individual and that family, and we always try to promote, like the paramount thing is that Métis are unique. They have a unique culture, and we have inherent rights. So I think that when you meet with the family the first time, Kelsey can speak to this more about when she deals with her families. That's the first tenet I think you need to keep in mind. And if you want to share an experience.
Yeah, sure. So I guess I'm just trying to think of one recently because there has some. So when I meet for the first time, a family comes into the Métis Nation and says, okay, I need help, I need some supports. My child has FASD, I don't have involvement with children's services, but I still require the help. So I bring them in, I sit them down, it's in a comfortable, relaxed environment. There's no blame. There's my opinions of them. I don't have an opinion of what they're going through. And I really just listen to what they're saying. So the first initial meeting is them telling me their story. Because, I mean, for me, Métis people that I've met are talkers. They're storytellers. They love to tell their story. And they want you to listen. They want someone to listen to them and take the time to hear what they're saying. So that's really the key point that we try to practice. So they come in, we listen to what they have to say. We don't have a time limit on, oh, it's been 20 minutes, sorry. We continuously meet with them. By doing that, we find out who they are. So what, as Sarah and Bea had mentioned, what they practice. What are their practices? Historically, it could be, they've grown up on a settlement, and this is kind of how they've done it, or bring it back today, and they found out that they're Métis 5 years ago. They never really lived the culture, but this is how they do it, right? So really understanding and connecting with them and bridging them to us, to come to us and be open. So the language that we speak is more of a, I don't want to say simplistic because it's not simplistic, but it's just kind of taking some of the terms. So instead of using, for example, like consuming alcohol, we say drinking, or just like changing those little things, make them feel a little bit more safe. We create this safe environment. So that's kind of the approach that we take and that we try to do with our Métis resource workers as well. So, yeah.
I have another question from Diane in Hyde Prairie. She's asking, if we were looking for supports for a child or family, would we contact you directly or go through our local CFSA?
They can contact the Métis Nation. We do have a children's services agreement throughout the province, so we can connect them with some of the supports that they need. Yeah.
This is more of from a historical perspective, so I think Bea will be the person to answer this. How do you define Métis? Because my husband he's from Manitoba, and he comes from the Fiddler family, but he's not. Would he be considered Métis?
Well, the first thing in our definition is self-identification. So not everyone, but most of us know from the time we're small that we are a Métis. Connected to this definition is we must find the historical Métis. I have people that come in and say, oh, well, I had a Métis 5 generations ago, but I don't think I'm Métis now. That is not true. There is no end. So we must connect to the historical. And fiddlers, my goodness, we have so many fiddlers in our database. Does that answer your question? Okay.
So you could even call Beatrice, and she would be able to give you some more information on your specific family. Yeah.
Kelsey and Sarah, one of the things that I've heard you acknowledge in this presentation is that the Métis Nation officially recognizes the incidence of FASD and how important that is to your people. And I wonder if having done that makes a difference to your individual member families and their comfort with acknowledging that they're affected by FASD.
Yeah, absolutely. I think so. And that's a key tenet, is just to create the comfort and then to acknowledge that it's okay to come and create the safe environment that Kelsey spoke of, and that it's about getting an accurate account of FASD in our population and connecting folks appropriately. So
I have one more question from Internet Land, but I would encourage anyone, if they have any more questions, to send them in now. The last question I have on my list right now is, are FASD programs going to be located in each region, the M&A FASD programs?
at this point, we have our agreement is provincial. So the territory that we cover is in the provincial region. So we'll try and connect folks to the appropriate services in their region. So it's about connecting, making the connections in each of the region for that person. So, thanks.
Are there any other questions in the room? Okay, thank you.
Yeah. Okay.
Thank you.
I just got one more. Psych.
We thought we were
Okay.
clear.
Gayla has a question. She says, thank you, first of all, for your presentation. Kelsey spoke about how a pan-Aboriginal approach is not an effective one. Can she elaborate on how to avoid this when working with families impacted by FASD?
Sure. I didn't say that it was an ineffective approach. I said we were going to change our approach to be more Métis specific. So just to clarify that, it's about identifying our Métis members and making sure that their culture is that their cultural views are respected when working with other agencies. So I guess just ensuring that they are that the agencies are providing culturally appropriate Métis specific supports. That's kind of what we're talking about. I hope that answers. I don't know. Yes. These are tough.
Richard has a question from Vancouver, and he's saying that we in Vancouver run Aboriginal-specific FASD caregivers, regular weekly support groups in the Vancouver area, and he's wondering if there are any. Oops, his question got cut off. Any plans? So I'm not sure if he means if you have any plans for Alberta, if you have any kind of caregiver support groups in the works.
At this point, it's just we're very much in development of going into our 13-14 year plan. So that's definitely something that we acknowledge as a necessity. At this point, it's just a matter of making sure that we're trying our best right now just to make sure that we're connecting individuals appropriately to the services. And if there's any questions we hope that people are comfortable just contacting us, and we can provide them with the relevant supports and the cultural information that they need.
That's a really good.
It's a good, absolutely. I think it's something that's very important. So that's good. Kudos to them.
And Yvonne has a question from Port Hardy, BC. She explains that, she says, I work as a consultant with the Aboriginal Infant Development Program within rural Aboriginal communities. I'm aware of the Métis community within this region. However, I have been unsuccessful in engaging with this demographic group. They are not as visible within my region, for example, through groups or organizations. I have an office in an Aboriginal Friendship Center and wonder how we could approach this group to inform them what services are available to support their families. But Yvonne says, I don't want to be intrusive and appear obnoxious as a Native worker from the dominant Native group in this area.
There's the Métis Nation of British Columbia, and perhaps she could connect with them, and they would be able to offer her some support in that regard. So that's one of our governing members, and in BC. So that would be a good contact for her, is to contact their provincial office.
All right, that's the end of the questions. Thanks.
Thank you.
Well, thank you to Beatrice and Sarah and Kelsey for an enlightening presentation. I must say that it certainly raised my awareness of the importance of culture and self-identification and comfort with oneself in being able to recognize the presence of FASD and then move forward to addressing it. And kudos, absolutely kudos to the Métis Nations for having played such an important role in doing that on behalf of your member people. Please note that evaluations, again, will be emailed to all of you who have participated, and that will happen within the next 2 business days. So please be sure to sign your attendance sheets. And your feedback on this session is really important to us because this is the kind of thing that we want to do more of. Please join us for our next presentation on March the 20th when Dr. Jacqueline Pye and Dr. Carmen Rasmussen will be presenting on the results of an initiative they've been involved with in the Edmonton school system called the Edmonton Mile. This has been a 1-year pilot project to improve school functioning for children affected by FASD, and I promise you it's going to be a very interesting presentation. So thank you once again, and thank you for your continued support for this series.